Nobody was ready for this. Andrei sat there, calm face, steady voice, and then dropped the words that sucked the air out of the room. He said he was filing for divorce, on stage, in front of everyone. And in that second, you could feel the show stop being entertainment and start feeling like an ambush. Elizabeth did not argue. She did not clap back. She froze. Panic took over. This was the moment everything changed. And the question hanging in the room was simple. Why do this here? This was not a slip. This was not emotion spilling over. This looked planned. The timing mattered. The place mattered. Cameras rolling. Cast watching. Millions at home. A private decision turned into a public detonation. Elizabeth's face told the story before words ever could. Shock, fear, loss of control. And once control is gone, good luck getting it back. Stay with this, because the reason this happened on stage says more than the divorce itself. For weeks, tension had been simmering. You saw the side eyes. You heard the clipped tones. You felt the distance growing. Still, nobody expected this. Not live, not cold, not like a statement read off a mental script. When Andrei spoke, he did not rush. He did not soften. He claimed his space and took the narrative in one move. And Elizabeth was left reacting in real time, with no warning and no shield. What makes this hit harder is the imbalance. One person prepared, one person blindsided, one person steady, one person spiraling. That contrast is brutal to watch. It turns a breakup into a power play. And power plays leave damage long after the moment passes. And here is the part most people miss. Once a story gets told this way, the person who controls the stage controls the truth. As Elizabeth stepped away, shaken and overwhelmed, the silence spoke louder than any argument. Empty space where she should have been. Eyes locked on Andrei instead. The question was no longer about love or marriage. It was about who won control of the story, and who paid the price for losing it. Before that moment blew everything up, the energy coming into the tell-all felt familiar. Messy, tense, but manageable. The previous episode ended with unresolved arguments, side comments, and everyone acting like they were done talking while clearly not done at all. You know the vibe. People smiling too hard. Apologies that sounded rehearsed. Old fights parked for later, even though later always comes fast on this show. Elizabeth and Andrei were already on shaky ground. The tension with her family had not cooled. If anything, it felt heavier. Every conversation carried history. Every pause felt loaded. Still, nothing screamed nuclear. More like the usual slow burn we have seen before. That is what made the shock land harder. The calm before this storm was almost convincing. Hold on to this feeling, because the calm is exactly what made the fallout sting more. Walking into the tell-all, everyone played their roles. Cast members ready with receipts. Others ready with selective memory. A few already annoyed before sitting down. The host tried to keep things orderly. But even then, the room felt crowded with unfinished business. People talked over each other. Eye rolls flew. You could sense alliances forming in real time. It felt like one of those reunions where nothing gets solved, but everything gets louder. There were small moments that felt off. If you look back, Andrei was quieter than usual, less defensive, less explosive, almost relaxed. Elizabeth smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. She nodded along, but her body looked tense. Those are the details you notice after the fact. In the moment, it all blended into the noise. This is where hindsight hits hard, because silence can hide intent. The tell-all set itself up as business as usual. Rehashing arguments, clarifying old clips, letting people vent. But underneath that routine rhythm, something felt misaligned. Conversations skipped beats. Reactions lagged. The room did not feel chaotic yet. It felt watchful. Like everyone sensed something waiting its turn, and that is the danger zone. When things look normal on the surface, but the energy underneath feels tight. The kind of tight where one sentence could flip the entire room. Nobody knew what that sentence would be. Nobody knew who would say it. But you could feel it hovering, because right before a bomb drops, the room always goes quiet in a strange way. As cameras rolled and the host moved things forward, the stage looked set for another loud but predictable night. Arguments, interruptions, emotional moments, then wrap. Except something was already leaning toward the edge. And once it tipped, there was no pulling it back. When Andrei finally spoke, the contrast was sharp. His tone stayed even, His posture stayed firm. No shaking hands. No raised voice. He looked like someone who had already made peace with the outcome. Elizabeth looked like someone hearing the ending for the first time. That difference alone changed how the room read the moment. Calm reads as confidence. Panic reads as loss. And television always rewards the person who looks in control. This is not about calling one person right or wrong. It is about behavior. Andrei chose clarity without cushioning. In my opinion, he treated the moment like a declaration, not a conversation. That choice gave him command of the stage. Elizabeth did not get a runway. She got dropped into free fall. You could see her breathing change. Her eyes darted. Her body stiffened. This was not performance. This was shock catching up to the nervous system. Pay attention here, because control often shows up before the words even land. Some viewers argued that honesty is honesty, no matter where it happens. That point deserves space. If a marriage is over, pretending otherwise helps no one. Dragging things out behind closed doors can cause its own damage. From that angle, Andrei saying it out loud looked decisive, clean, final, a line drawn instead of endless circles. But here is the flip side. Timing shapes impact. Saying something true in a high-pressure space multiplies the harm. A private choice became a public reckoning. Elizabeth did not lose a marriage in that moment alone. She lost footing. She lost the chance to process. She lost narrative ground. The cameras kept rolling while her body tried to catch up. The power imbalance kept widening. Andrei stayed seated. Elizabeth stood, then stepped back. Physical space mirrored emotional distance. One person anchored, one person unraveling. Even people who did not like Elizabeth could feel the shift. Sympathy does not require agreement. It only requires recognizing distress. This is the moment where viewers split and once sides form. Everything after gets filtered through bias. Andrei continued explaining. Grievances, history, frustrations. He sounded resolved, almost relieved. Elizabeth barely responded. Her silence spoke volumes. Silence can look weak on television, even when it comes from overwhelm. The room waited for her to push back. She could not. Her system was overloaded. Then the signs became impossible to ignore. Shallow breaths, hands near her chest, eyes unfocused. This was no longer an argument. This was a physical response to emotional overload. And the question shifted again. Not who was right, not who started it, but something heavier. Once truth turns into shock. Does honesty still count as honesty if care gets left behind? Once Elizabeth stepped away, the room did not slow down. It sped up. Voices jumped in fast, overlapping, louder than needed. Everyone suddenly had an opinion. Some leaned forward. Some crossed arms. Some avoided eye contact. Alliances formed in seconds, not through words, but through posture. Who looked at Andrei? Who looked away? Who looked uncomfortable speaking up? This is the part where reality television shows its seams. People know the cameras are still rolling. Silence becomes a choice. Speaking up becomes a risk. A few cast members tried to challenge Andrei, not aggressively, but pointed. Timing, delivery, was this the place? Others stayed quiet, which said plenty. Silence protects. Silence also judges. Watch closely here, because reactions reveal loyalty faster than speeches. The host tried to regain rhythm, redirect the conversation, ask neutral questions. It did not land. The energy had shifted from discussion to damage control. Andrei stayed composed, not smug, not loud, composed. That composure became its own kind of armor. The louder the room got, the steadier he looked. On television, steady often reads as credible, even when the moment feels wrong. Elizabeth's name kept coming up. People spoke about her while she was gone. That detail matters. Talking around someone instead of with them changes tone. It turns concern into commentary. Some defended her, others questioned her reactions. A few framed Andrei as blunt but honest. The split grew sharper by the minute. Body language carried most of the weight. Chairs angled away, heads shaking, hands folded tight. Nobody laughed. Even side comments landed flat. Humor tried to sneak in, but the tension shut it down. This was not a playful reunion moment. This was discomfort filling the space. This is where performance and pressure collide, and nobody looks relaxed doing either. As the conversation dragged on, the absence became louder. Elizabeth's chair sat empty, untouched. No jacket draped over it. No movement, just space. The camera did not need to zoom in. Everyone noticed. Empty chairs on this show always mean something went too far. Andrei answered questions. He did not soften. He did not escalate. That steadiness frustrated some people more than yelling ever would. Others seemed relieved. Someone was saying things plainly. The room stayed divided. No resolution in sight. The empty chair changed the power balance. Without Elizabeth there, the story leaned one direction. Her voice was missing, her reaction already spent. Absence became a message all on its own. Sometimes the loudest response is not a shout or a clap back. It is leaving the room and letting the silence speak for you. And once someone leaves the stage, the story keeps moving without them. Whether they are ready or not, just when the room was still trying to recover, another shock hit. This one landed sideways. A claim dropped about Jovi and Yara, and suddenly the focus snapped away from divorce papers and panic attacks. The air changed fast. You could see heads turn. This was not expected. This was not queued up. And the timing could not have been worse. Yara's face said everything before she spoke. Confusion first. Then fear, not anger, not outrage. Fear, the kind that comes from hearing doubt spoken out loud in front of people who already watch your marriage like a sport. Her body went still. Her eyes filled. She did not jump to defend. She froze again, same as Elizabeth earlier, but for a different reason. Stay right here, because this moment cracked something that had already been fragile. Jovi denied it quickly. His voice got louder. His words came faster. That contrast mattered. Denial can sound defensive even when it is honest. And on this stage, volume does not equal clarity. Yara barely spoke at first. She did not need to. Her reaction filled the room. Shock turned into doubt. Doubt turned inward. When she finally spoke, it was not about the rumor. It was about how she felt inside the marriage. Feeling alone, feeling unsure, feeling like effort goes unseen. This was not a dramatic speech. It was vulnerable and messy. She questioned her worth out loud, which is never easy, and even harder in front of cameras and castmates. The room quieted again. Not the same way as before. This silence felt heavy. People shifted in their seats. A few reached out, others looked down. This was no longer gossip. This was insecurity getting aired in public. Notice how fast a rumor turns into a mirror when fear already lives there. To be fair, Jovi tried to explain. He insisted the claim was false. He looked frustrated, maybe even blindsided. From his side, being accused on stage put him on defense. That matters too. False claims can hurt. Being forced to reassure someone publicly can feel humiliating. Still, damage does not wait for proof. Once doubt gets spoken, it takes on a life of its own. Yara admitted the fear did not start tonight. Tonight only gave it a microphone. That distinction matters. The rumor did not invent insecurity. It exposed it. The discomfort lingered. Even after denial. Even after explanations. Trust does not snap back into place because words say it should. Especially when those words arrive under bright lights, with an audience watching every reaction. So here is the question nobody could answer in that room. Can a relationship stay intact once doubt goes public, even if the rumor gets denied? By the time the episode ended, the conversation had already moved off the stage and onto screens everywhere else. Phones came out, group chats lit up, comment sections filled faster than the credits rolled. This was no longer just something that happened on a set. It turned into a shared event, processed in real time by thousands of people who all felt like witnesses. Sides formed almost instantly. Some viewers praised Andrei for being direct. Others called the timing unforgivable. Elizabeth's panic became a debate instead of a concern. Empathy posts sat right next to judgment posts, sometimes from the same accounts. That whiplash says a lot. We watch, we feel, and then we analyze feelings like they are strategies. This is where the episode stopped belonging to the cast and started belonging to the audience. Clips circulated out of context. Screenshots froze expressions into permanent meanings. A steady face became cold. A shaky voice became manipulative. Yara's silence got labeled strength by some, weakness by others. Everyone saw something different, and everyone was sure they were right. That certainty is part of the pull. The irony is that most people watching recognize pieces of themselves in what they were reacting to. Fear of being blindsided. Fear of being embarrassed publicly. Fear of being doubted. The reactions were not just about the cast. They were about personal experiences getting projected onto familiar faces. Memes popped up, but even those felt sharper than usual, less playful, more pointed. Humor as a coping mechanism instead of a joke. When discomfort runs high, irony fills the gap. It lets people comment without fully sitting in the unease. Scroll long enough and you start to see the pattern. Outrage mixed with attachment. What made this episode different was how long the conversation stayed active. It did not burn out overnight. It lingered. Threads kept going. New takes appeared days later. People rewatch scenes to catch body language they missed. That rewatching matters. It means the moment did not resolve emotionally for viewers, so they kept returning to it, and while fans debated intentions and outcomes, the cast went quiet. No immediate posts, no clarifications, no damage control. That silence fueled speculation even more. When the cameras stopped, the audience did not, because the truth is, the fallout did not end with the episode, it just changed platforms. The noise fades when Natalie walks into focus. No shouting, no pylon. The energy drops, and the room feels heavier. Her story does not crash. It sinks. That shift matters. Chaos grabs attention. Concern holds it. Natalie speaks about change, about becoming someone new, about finally choosing herself. On paper, it sounds strong. On screen, it feels fragile. Not weak, fragile. There is a difference. Strength moves outward. Fragility looks inward, searching for confirmation. In my opinion, what we see is not reinvention as growth. It looks closer to reinvention as escape. She talks about appearance, confidence, fresh starts. The language stays upbeat. Her body does not follow. Shoulders tense, eyes dart. Smiles arrive early and leave fast. When validation lands, relief flashes. When it does not, the air tightens. That pattern repeats. Praise lifts her. Silence drops her. That loop feels familiar to many people watching, and this part holds attention because it feels uncomfortably recognizable. There is no villain in this section. No clear trigger. That absence makes it harder to process. Pain without a single source lingers longer. Natalie frames her changes as empowerment, and that framing deserves respect. At the same time, the timing raises questions. When change follows loss, motive blurs. Growth and avoidance often wear the same outfit. The room responds carefully. Fewer interruptions, softer tones. Even the usual commentators slow down. That shift signals something unspoken. People sense when spectacle turns into exposure. The show does not push her. It lets the silence do the work. From a behavior lens, the focus stays on regulation. How does someone steady themselves when external approval drives internal calm? When reassurance becomes fuel, absence feels like threat. Natalie does not say this outright. She does not need to. The pattern speaks. This is where viewers who usually drift lean back in, not for drama, but for understanding. There is also a quiet sadness in how the segment ends. No resolution. No big statement. She leaves with the same questions she entered with, only louder. The changes continue. The uncertainty stays. The camera moves on, but the feeling does not. This arc does not shock. It unsettles. It leaves the sense of something unfinished, something still raw. And that unease follows into the next moment, reminding everyone watching that not all damage looks explosive. Some of it looks polished, smiling, and unresolved. By the final stretch, the pattern becomes clear. Different couples, different moments, same structure, pressure applied, reactions captured, consequences left hanging. What looked like chaos starts to read like design. Not scripted lines, but engineered exposure. Power shows up in quiet ways. Timing, seating, who speaks uninterrupted, who gets framed as emotional, who stays still while someone else spirals. Earlier, calm looked like strength. Now it reads differently. Calm without care carries a cost. So does honesty delivered like a verdict. Control gained in public rarely stays clean in private. Exposure changes behavior. People do not act the same when millions watch. Some harden, some crumble, some perform survival. The show rewards whichever reaction holds attention longest. That reward system shapes choices, even when nobody admits it out loud. This answers the question from the opening. Who gained control on that stage? And the answer feels uncomfortable. The audience plays a role too. Watching turns pain into proof. Reactions turn moments into narratives. Picking sides simplifies complex emotions into winners and losers. That simplification feels good. It feels decisive. It also misses the point. Earlier assumptions flip here. Andrei's composure no longer reads as mastery alone. It reads as distance. Elizabeth's collapse no longer looks like weakness alone. It looks like shock without shelter. Yara's silence stops being passive. It becomes self-protection. Natalie's reinvention stops looking bold. It starts looking unresolved. Nobody escapes untouched. Some carry visible bruises. Others carry quieter ones. Even viewers leave changed, carrying opinions heavier than they expected, replaying scenes they did not plan to remember. This is not a story about villains and victims. It is a story about cost. When intimacy becomes content, every reaction becomes currency. Power circulates. Empathy gets tested. Lines blur. And by the end, the most honest takeaway lands softly and stays long after the screen fades. Nobody walked away clean. And the next chapter does not start with answers. It starts with what lingers. When the noise finally stops. By the end, the shock cools and something heavier settles in. Not relief, not closure, recognition. What played out on that stage was not random chaos. It followed a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Exposure rewards control. Emotion pays the price. Silence speaks louder than shouting. Every storyline circled the same cost. Public timing turned private truth into leverage. Calm earned power, but at the expense of connection. Vulnerability drew empathy, but also scrutiny. Even growth got filtered through approval. Nobody left with clean hands or a clean heart. And this is the part people miss while reacting in real time. The loudest moments distracted from the quieter damage. The pause after a panic. The way doubt lingered in someone's posture. The relief that came too fast after validation. Those details matter more than the headlines. They show where the real fractures sit, long after applause fades. This episode asked a harder question than who was right or wrong. It asked what happens when intimacy turns into performance, and whether anyone involved still gets to process pain without an audience. Watching feels passive. It is not. Attention shapes outcomes. When the stage lights dim, the stories keep moving. Legal steps do not end emotions. Denials do not erase suspicion. Reinvention does not equal repair. The fallout keeps unfolding off camera, in choices, in silence, in distance. So when the next episode picks up, listen past the shouting. Watch the still moments. The real story hides there. And there is one thread in particular, buried under all the noise, that changes how this entire season reads once you spot it.